They say every road leads somewhere. But some roads shouldn't exist at all. They appear only once. Only to certain people. And never again. Tonight, I'm going to tell you the story of a man named Elias Ward, who swears he drove down a road that wasn't on any map, that no GPS could find, and that, according to local authorities, has never existed. A road that seemed to know he was lost. A road that took him somewhere he should have never gone. A road that thousands claim to have glimpsed, but that no one has ever been able to locate twice. If you think you know the world, if you think your GPS makes you safe, stay with me. Because what happened to Elias can happen to anyone. And if one night, while driving alone, your navigation system suddenly glitches and offers you a faster route, you might want to think twice before accepting it. Chapter 1. The Night It Began. Elias Ward wasn't a superstitious man. No ghosts. No monsters. No supernatural nonsense. He was a paramedic, logical, calm, used to emergencies. That night, he was driving home after a 16-hour shift. Heavy rain, fog like wet cement, and a dead silent radio. His GPS kept recalculating. The interstate was blocked due to a pileup, so he had to take a detour. But then something strange happened. His GPS flashed. New route available, 22 minutes faster. The problem? Elias was in an area he knew extremely well, and there were no roads that matched that path. Still, sleep deprivation and the promise of arriving home earlier convinced him. He accepted the route. And that was the start of everything. The road began as a narrow asphalt stretch between trees too dense to see through. No signs. No street lights. No tire marks. Just a long, perfectly straight road that reflected the headlights like polished stone. The rain stopped abruptly. The fog remained. Elias remembers thinking, "Why is there a paved road here? I've never seen construction crews around." 5 minutes later, something else felt wrong. There were no intersections. No driveways. No mailboxes. No ditches. Just that uncanny, endless strip of road. He checked the GPS. The screen showed nothing but a blue line moving across empty space, like he was driving through a void. And then, the road changed. The smooth asphalt faded into something rougher, older, like ancient blacktop cracking under time. He slowed down. That's when the first sign appeared. A rusted metal sheet riddled with holes, the letters almost erased. "Keep driving. Do not stop." He thought it was graffiti. A prank. He kept driving. 10 minutes later he saw her. A woman in a torn white coat standing on the shoulder. Not walking. Not waving. Just standing facing the trees. Her hair was drenched. Her arms hung unnaturally straight. Her feet were bare. Elias rolled down the window slightly. "Ma'am, do you?" The woman turned her head, but not the rest of her body. Just the head, like something was wrong with her neck. Her eyes were wide. Her mouth slightly open. And then she whispered without moving her lips, "You shouldn't be here." Elias floored the accelerator. In the rearview mirror, the woman didn't move. She didn't chase him. She didn't vanish. She simply grew smaller and smaller until she disappeared into the fog. But the worst was yet to come. After what felt like 20 minutes, the GPS suddenly showed a turn, a right curve leading to a house. A single house, alone in the middle of nowhere. White, 2 stories, porch light flickering. Elias knew he should have kept driving, but exhaustion took over. He needed directions, or at least a place to call for help. He parked, left the headlights on. The house looked abandoned, windows dark, paint peeling, but the front door was slightly open. He stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Old dirt, wet wood, something metallic. He called out, "Hello? Anyone home?" No answer. The living room was full of dust-covered furniture. However, one thing was completely out of place. A photograph on a small table, clean, untouched by dust. He picked it up. It was a picture of a dirt road, the same woman he had just seen, and her handwritten message, "Turn back, before it follows you." Elias dropped the photo. Something moved upstairs. Slow, heavy footsteps. Not human. More like something dragging weight across the floor. He ran back to the car. The house lights turned on. All at once. Every room. Blinding white. As he sped away, the upstairs curtain shifted. A shadow watched him leave. Back on the road, Elias realized the fog had thickened to the point where he could barely see 5 feet ahead. He slowed the car. But then the road began to narrow. The trees leaned inward, almost touching the roof. The pavement turned into gravel, then dirt, and finally mud. His tires began to slip. He tried to turn around, but the road behind him had changed. It wasn't a road anymore. It was forest. Branches, grass, uneven ground. The road simply disappeared. He was trapped. He kept driving forward. It was the only option. After what felt like an hour, the dirt path widened again. A new sign appeared. Brand new metal. Perfect paint. Bright letters. "Thank you for visiting Route 191B. We hope you come back." Elias slammed the brakes. He'd never heard of such a route. No one had. Local maps didn't list it. State records denied it. But beyond the sign was the main highway. Cars, lights, life. He raced onto the asphalt, relieved, shaking, drenched in sweat. When he looked back, the entrance to the dirt path was gone. Just a guardrail and thick forest. Elias tried to report what happened. Police dismissed it as fatigue. Locals told him similar stories. Roads that only appear once. Routes no one can find again. Paths that seem to lure lost travelers. Some call them phantom roads. Others believe they're glitches in reality. And some say they're traps, leading to places we were never meant to go. Elias never used GPS shortcuts again. And every night when he drives home, he swears he sees just for a second, behind the trees, a dirt road that wasn't there the night before. They say the most dangerous place in the world isn't on the surface. It's beneath your feet. Every day, thousands of people descend into tunnels so deep that sunlight never reaches them. But there are mines that hide more than rocks, gas, or metals. Today I'll tell you the story that authorities are still trying to cover up. The story of 6 workers who entered one of the oldest mines in South America. And only one came out. But he didn't come out the same. Not sane. And not alone. He claims something lives down there. Something ancient. Something that moves when the lights go out. Something that shouldn't exist. If you have claustrophobia, you brace yourself. And if you don't, you might after this story. Alvaro Medina, 39, a veteran miner and rescuer. Respected, meticulous, fearless. He had 20 years of experience underground. The mine he was assigned that day, La Noria Vieja, had a reputation. Sudden collapses. Tools disappearing. Sounds with no source. Corridors that seem to shift. But when paychecks are on the line, miners go down regardless. At 4:50 a.m., the 6 workers descended 300 meters in metal cages that shook like teeth in winter. Alvaro recalls the air being colder than usual, heavier, and the engineers seemed to avoid eye contact. When they reached level 7, they turned on their helmet lights. White beams slicing through the absolute darkness. Everything seemed normal, until they found the door. It shouldn't have existed. A massive metal door, an old model no longer manufactured. Welded into the rock. "What is this?" asked Torres, the youngest worker. The foreman said, "It's not on the plans. Ignore it." Alvaro approached. The door had scratches, as if someone had tried to escape from inside. Next to the handle, barely visible, 4 words were carved. "Don't wake it here." No one touched it. No one wanted to. They continued working, breaking rock, placing supports, marking new veins. But the door seemed to watch them, seemed to wait. At 9:15 a.m., the first sound came. A knock. Distant. Boom, boom, boom. Like a giant walking somewhere deep underground. But further below. Another collapse? Torres asked. "No," Alvaro replied. "It's coming from beneath." The foreman tried the radio. No signal. Impossible. The system always worked. Except that day. They turned on extra lights. The darkness seemed to swallow the beams. The knocking returned. Boom, boom, boom. Stronger. Closer. They decided to return to the elevator. But the path felt different. The wooden supports tilted. The corridors seemed narrower. And then, just before reaching the main junction, Torres vanished. Vanished before their eyes. A blink. A crack. A brief scream. No collapse. No hole. He just disappeared, leaving only his helmet. The light flickered. Without anyone touching it. Without anyone pushing. The old metal door opened. A smell came out. Something wet, rancid, like freshly turned earth mixed with iron. And something else. Now the knocking was not coming from below. It came from inside the door. Boom, boom, boom. Like something was approaching. "Run," Alvaro said. But they didn't run fast enough. They never saw its full form. Only fragments. An arm too long. Fingers that looked like roots. One single eye in the darkness. Staring. Unblinking. And the sound. That horrible, impossible sound. A deep, heavy breathing. As if the mine itself were alive. As if the tunnel inhaled and exhaled. One by one the men were taken. Not by hands. not by ropes, by the darkness itself, by something leaving no trace, something moving silently. Alvaro was the only one to run further, but he knew the truth. You can't run in a place where the tunnels change. Hours later, a rescue team descended. They found Torres's helmet, tools scattered, and Alvaro, sitting on the floor 200 meters from the door, alone, covered in dust, repeating the same phrase over and over. The mind breathes, the mind breathes, the mind breathes. When they tried to move him, he screamed, "If you wake it again, no one will remain." The door had closed. Still, no scratches, as if it had never opened. The government claimed an accidental collapse. Level 7 was sealed. Entry closed. Alvaro was hospitalized. He never fully recovered his sanity. Before losing his ability to speak entirely, he said, "It's not a creature. It's the mind itself. It's alive. And it's hungry." Authorities ignored him. But veteran miners know, at certain depths, the earth stops being just earth and starts to watch. Imagine waking up somewhere your phone has no signal, where the wind can knock you off your feet, and where, if you make the wrong decision, no one is coming to save you. Imagine opening your eyes knowing no one knows where you are. This is the true story of a man who spent 72 hours trapped at the end of the world, in a place so remote that even helicopters couldn't reach him. 3 days facing freezing temperatures, wild animals, and terrain where every step might be your last. But the most unbelievable part isn't how he survived. It's how he ended up there in the first place. The man's name was Thomas Reed, a 34-year-old amateur hiker from Oregon. He was responsible, methodical, and experienced, but he had one fatal flaw. He trusted his ability to improvise too much. For months, Thomas had dreamed of crossing a region known as the White Gorge, a remote canyon on the Alaska-Canada border. Beautiful, yes, but also a black hole on maps. A place where storms formed without warning, and where one wrong step could trap you forever. Park rangers always warned, it's the kind of place where a single mistake can cost your life. But Thomas wanted to prove something to himself. On September 17, 2011, Thomas started his trek in perfect weather. He carried 4 days of food, a map, a compass, a GPS, and full camping gear. But he made 3 critical mistakes. He didn't tell anyone his exact route. He only said, "I'll be back Tuesday." He trusted his GPS completely, unaware the region had major signal issues. He followed a trail that wasn't on the map, because it looked faster. That trail led him into unstable terrain. Tired, he set up camp anyway. But in the middle of the night, he woke up to a terrifying sound, like ice cracking underneath him. Except it wasn't ice. It was the ground. At 3:42 a.m., a landslide dragged Thomas down a 40-meter slope. His tent, his backpack, and most of his gear were swallowed by dirt, rocks, and branches. When he opened his eyes, he was trapped inside a natural trench, so narrow the sky looked like a thin blue line above him. His legs worked, his arms worked, his backpack was gone. All he had left was wet thermal clothing, a pocket knife, a lighter he didn't know would work, an empty canteen. He tried climbing back up, but the walls were too smooth, too steep. There was no way back up. His only option: follow the trench forward, not knowing where it led. This was the beginning of his 72-hour ordeal. Thomas pushed forward. The ground was slippery, the walls dripping with water, and the light barely reached him. Problems came fast. 1. Extreme cold. His clothes were soaked. The temperature, 3 degrees Celsius, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. If he didn't make fire by nightfall, hypothermia was almost guaranteed. He tried the lighter. Nothing. Then again. And again. After 15 tries, a spark saved his life. He dried part of his clothing and slept in a small rocky cavity. 2. Hunger. No food. No small animals. Just roots and leaves. He tested each one carefully, waiting 15 minutes after chewing, to see if they caused any reaction. 3. The first major obstacle. A section where meltwater created a strong current. He made a rope, using his shirt and belt, and crossed. Barely. He already knew. The worst was still ahead. In the second night, he heard it. A deep, wet growl. Not a bear. A wolverine. One of the most aggressive, territorial animals in North America. If the wolverine entered the trench, Thomas had nowhere to run. He lit a small fire, slammed rocks together to make noise. The animal stayed at the entrance. 4 minutes, endless minutes. Then it left. But Thomas now knew he wasn't alone in the trench. Thomas finally found what looked like an exit. The trench widened. Light was stronger. He climbed rocks, tore his clothes, cut his hands, scraped his knees, and when he reached the end, a 3-meter vertical wall, he tried everything: jumping, stacking rocks, wedging stones into cracks. He ripped his skin open, trying to climb, but he couldn't. This was his lowest moment. His GPS miraculously, working 1 minute at a time, recorded a voice note. If I die here, let someone know I tried. I didn't give up. At sunrise on day 3, Thomas heard something new. Flowing water. To his right, a large stream. Streams mean valleys. Valleys mean openings. He followed the sound for hours, crawling, stumbling, barely conscious, until he found a large break in the rock, a way out. He had to peel his own skin on jagged stone to widen the gap, but he passed through. Outside, he reached an open valley, still remote, yes, but finally visible from the sky. That same day, a search helicopter, ironically looking for someone else, spotted him. Thomas survived 72 hours in a place where most people would not. Thomas Reed wasn't saved by luck. He survived because he did what true survivors do. He moved. He adapted. He thought. He endured. Today his story is used in survival training courses to prove a simple truth. In the wilderness, the line between life and death can come down to a single choice, and Thomas made the right ones. when it mattered most,